analyst, and so here he is on video if you're watching on YouTube or on the Seattle Sports app. Good morning, Jordan. How are you?
I'm doing great. How you guys doing?
We're awesome, man. I got to tell you, like when we've spoken, the last time we spoke, I was
right after the draft, right?
Yeah, I was still a little nervous about the Seahawks offense. Excited to see, and the unknown of both Sam and Jalen, who I'm very excited about. But the offensive line questions, new coordinator, this and that. And I don't know. I probably shouldn't be so drastically affected by a preseason game. But the way they mauled Kansas City and ran the ball, 48 times for 268 yards, it kind of changed my whole opinion. Like, I'm really, really excited about this offense now. Am I crazy?
Well, this will be a fun conversation because my conviction in the Seattle offense this year doesn't have anything to do with that game. So we can kind of meet in the middle. But no, I think there's things you can take from preseason. There's the rest you throw away in terms of, whether you're a staff projecting, whether you're a fan hypothesizing, whether you're a better prophesizing, whatever it is. There's things you can take. But ready or not, football's here. And look, I think with the whole Sam Darnold narrative going back to, his early days in New York to everyone but myself being so surprised at how last year went. And a bunch of people will be so surprised that he was able to do it again in Seattle when I think it's inevitable. I think it's just a case where you can't unsee things that you've seen. And so when you watch a player at any position, any sport play poorly, you need a lot of reinforcements to change your opinion and to replace what you've seen. But I think that's the difference between fans and regular civilians and world-class professional athletes is their ability to reset and build. And so you're getting, inserting Sam Darnold at an incredible point in his career, with a staff at an incredible point in their career. This is not year one for everybody. This is not, you know what I mean? There's a lot of newness when you shift over from Pete Carroll and you shift over from Russell Wilson, all the moves that have made. And, but I just think this is a right time, right place league. And I think this is the right time, the right place, and the right people for this Seattle Seahawks offense. And I don't know anything about the defense. That's the only reason I'm just saying offense.
Jordan, we talk about that all the time. And I'm trying to think, honestly, like in the last 10 years, did one line stick with somebody as much as I'm seeing ghosts is unfortunately stuck with Sam? I mean, we bring national people on, we bring other people on, and they'll just, he just sees ghosts. He even said as much, and you just watch his feet and he gets rattled. He just sees ghosts. I'm trying to think of just a singular mic'd up line that has just stuck, especially with a young quarterback at that point, as much as that has seemed to do to some national folks with Sam.
No, I can't think of another either. The one that was at least, negative. And the crazy thing about that, I was watching that live. That's common phraseology in the quarterback world. You know that, Brock. I mean, a coach says, hey, let's not see ghosts out there. Whether that means throwing it to a guy, whether he's open or not, or mis-IDing a protection. And Brock, you also know that, like, that's not indicative of one person when you have a performance like that Sunday night game versus the Patriots. It is not one person. It was indicative of a team being out prepared and players being outmatched. And so that it's the irony that stuck with him, and the fact that he doesn't see ghosts anymore. And I think that was a momentary thing. But yeah, I think that stuck with him. And that's where I think, we talk about these individual traits in quarterbacks, right? A rocket arm, ability to make all the throws, athletic ability, mobility, when you're going through the draft process and you're breaking down all these tangibles and intangibles. But I think one of the superpowers that the best quarterbacks have, and flip this to what I do for a living when I do work with some of the top high school and college quarterbacks in the country, what is the superpower? If I could give them one thing, what would the thing that I would give them be? It's the ability to not give a crap what anybody thinks. I know that sounds like too holistic and oversimplified and granola, but your ability to not care what anybody thinks, I will take that over the ability to throw it 78 yards, over the ability to run a 4.44. It is way more valuable, particularly in 2025 when absolutely every single thing is scrutinized. And so Sam's ability to not care what people think, is more impressive to me than his arm talent, which is, I think, among the tops in the NFL.
I think I see Brock scribbling notes there for Titus, his son, who's got his first game of the year tomorrow night. And Brock, that really echoes what I heard you say a couple weeks ago when you said, I don't think you can be a successful quarterback today if you're a pleaser, if you're a people pleaser.
Yep. Where were you
I've got a couple of boys.
Where were you on that, Jordan? Were you? You know, it's funny because we were chatting right before you came on, Mike and I, kind of about your family and your history, and Carson and you, and you know, I had an older brother and Damon, and beautiful thrower of the football as well, and all of that, and just my mentality. And I was a middle child, and it really came to light at the end of my college and into my pro career is how much of a perfectionist pleaser I was, and just how I think, and especially in this day and age, how destructive that is. Where were you on that spectrum?
Honestly, looking back on it, knowing what I know now, it was the main actual difference between Carson and I. We're the same size. We were both 6'5", played between 233 and 238. We both ran the same speed. We both had the same parents, same quarterback coach growing up. You remember Bob Johnson? Yeah. Pretty similar, man. Some things I'm better at than him, you know, and at the end of the day, confidence was one. And but the main thing was Carson still to this day, his ability, it's not even a trait. It's not something you would compliment him on because I don't think he worked on it. I think he just naturally has never given a crap what anybody thinks. And I was the extreme other side of that. And for me, yeah, maybe being a pleaser, but really also the shadow of Carson Palmer in Orange County and what that meant. And then, you know, he goes and wins the Heisman, and then I start as a freshman the next year. And so the expectations were like, well, his brother won the Heisman. This guy's going to be even better. And I heard all of it, and I processed all of it, and I had an inability. And just so you guys know, my two-year-old's behind me, and he's like wandering around the room. We're live, brother.
What's up, dude?
We're live, brother.
He don't care. He don't give a crap what people think.
Oh, he doesn't.
He's not a pleaser.
No, he definitely doesn't.
He's on a surfboard.
But that's honestly the difference. Was the main difference.
So
and I've got 3 boys, and I've got one where I go, oof, and they all love football, and I go, all right, I hope he really gets good at wide out or tight end because of what we just said, even though he can spin it.
It's interesting.
And I got one who I go, he's a quarterback.
It's interesting that you were the pleaser as a second child, or the younger child, because generally, and obviously that's a huge generalization, we see that more with older kids, firstborn, whereas the second comes out and is like, whatever, I don't care, I'm a stone cold killer out there. I know that's been Brock's experience with his kids, my experience with my kids, and I wonder if maybe just Carson you think it's just that he was such a big deal that it made it hard to live up to it?
I don't know. I've tried to unpack it. It was also pre-internet. You know what I mean? When he was the top quarterback in the country coming out of high school, if a bunch of people thought he was overrated and going to be a bust, he would have had to physically hear them say that because there was no internet.
Right.
Yeah. And, you know, it's just like he's coaching high school football. They have their first game tomorrow night versus my alma mater. Pretty awesome. A top 20. Both teams are top 20 in the country. And it's the same thing. He doesn't his inability to hear it. And so, I think it's an interesting thing as I raise boys, and I'm the younger of Carson and I, but I'm the youngest of 4. So I don't know how that plays out into the psychology of kids growing up and all that stuff. But I do know, looking back on it, that was a thing. I also think it makes me a great coach because I can really speak to those guys. Whereas I think if you've never cared what anybody thought and you're coaching a player that does, I don't know how you would know what to tell him. So I think it becomes a superpower for me in terms of my ability to communicate with my clients.
Jordan, I know it was only 4 throws in the game, and they were precise, and they were on time, and they were on target. Sam's preseason game last week. We've been to some of the different practices. You certainly talked to people that have been to all of them, and the offense is starting to gain some confidence, and they're in Green Bay today practicing and everything else. I'm curious, as a coach, I'm sure, do you see some of the practice tape? Does he send you some of the clips? Do you get a chance to kind of, both him and Jalen, kind of monitor where they have been through training camp here?
Yeah, I've been able to follow along pretty closely, and I think as it pertains to Sam, really just given the reins like this. Last year he was given the reins, but given the reins and a 1-year contract. And so I think there's a peace of mind that comes with that, where you guys have been around him enough probably by now to know that this is as simple and honest and hardworking of a blue collar guy as there is, who just wants to have a team and just wants to build it and wants to do it right, And so, I haven't seen major changes between last year and this year mechanically, because I think a lot of that stuff is done and set. The minutia that we're working on and we spent this offseason with, because I do like 6 or 7 weeks with Sam every offseason in the beginning with no ball. So really just reconnecting, mostly on a basketball court. We do these 90-minute sessions on a basketball court, and just really understanding the movement, because coaches tell you what to do. They don't tell you how to do it. And so really just repatterning out his movement and strengthening different ranges of motion. And then we looked at last season, every single way that he left the pocket. We pulled the most common ways that he left the pocket. And then we built those movements into a training program this offseason. So before he touches a football, he's 2 months in to all of the different movements that he's doing. Rewind the clock 12 months ago, getting ready for a new offense with Minnesota. Then we take the new footwork and we pattern that out. And that's what we do with rookies and with quarterbacks who have new coordinators or hit free agency. And so Sam, I think, is just so set in his patterning and his movement that you're talking about. I don't know that he'd be able to answer it even, in the media of like, what are you working on? You hear guys say things like footwork and accuracy, but it's a lot more detailed than that. I've just seen a steady evolution of that. And then on Jalen's side of things, there's a lot of newness. He had a different coordinator each year. He had to play last year without the first year without Nick Saban, which was a major, major change. All the pressure's on him. Now he's a rookie. And so I've just seen a lot of things that we spent a lot of time on this offseason because it was draft prep, showing up in practice tape, whether that's staying connected on your front side when you're hitching and using your front side to stabilize to turn your hips. And I can get real nerdy here. I'm seeing that, in practice tape. And even just a consistent gun stance and consistent first movement from gun. These little things that we take for granted. That's the stuff that you want to get really good at when you, I would say, are blessed to not have to play right away as a rookie. That's the thing that you can spend time doing it, because when you get drafted and are expected to play right away, you have so much other stuff you got to get ready for. You can't worry about the little things. And so I think Jalen's in an incredible spot for development, for him to continue to actually have the space to work on, continue to evolve without having to, prepare to play on Sunday.
Jordan Palmer with us, who is now coaching both Sam Darnold and Jalen Milroe. What are just some of the benefits of this offense for those guys?
Brock, I'm curious what you think. I kind of feel like all these offenses are the same. Spread and like West Coast. Everybody runs a bunch of versions of drive. Everybody's got the same quick game packages. People like to push it vertically. If you get pressed across the board, let's throw a slot fade. So I do see a lot of, and I'm over exaggerating. There's some intricacies that are very specific and fingerprint style to each offense. But I think it's, for me, when I think about Seattle's offense, it's really more about the personnel. I think Jackson Smith and Jigba, adding in Cooper Kupp, guys that they're heavy, they're really feel guys. There are a lot of things, but one of the strengths I would say is they're feel guys. And I've just, third party, first person, whatever, witness the communication, the level of communication between Sam and the receivers. It's not like that everywhere else, whether it's because the quarterback doesn't see it that way or because the receivers can't understand it when the quarterback explains it that way. And so when you have a high level IQ in the wideout room, in an offense that wants to throw the ball, which is every offense, and a quarterback who's done it at multiple places with a lot of different players from Justin Jefferson on down. I just think this offense is going to be able to make a mistake once and not again. And honestly, over the 18-week season, heading into the playoffs, that's more so than a playmaker or an after the catch guy. I want receivers who don't make the same mistake twice. We weren't on the same page. We talk about it, and then boom, it never happens again. I think that's how you build an incredibly explosive offense.
Are you familiar with Belmont Hill, an elite academic institution in the Northeast, Jordan? You ever trained a quarterback at a Belmont Hill?
It's really too bad.
That's where Jake Bobo is from. And he did a great job earlier in the week explaining some of the offense. And while you're right, I don't disagree. Like, here's a Rolodex of all these different packages of plays. And I would say the amount of under center that we'll see this take shape this year with the Seahawks, how much they do, is vastly different than certainly a year ago. And then what Jake Bobo went into some detail that I don't think, Jordan, a lot of teams, even at the NFL level, do well, and that is make things look the same. Sean McVay does it. Shanahan does it. O'Connell does it. The elite guys
Detroit
do it.
does it. Detroit
does it right at the top of the list with Ben. Like, yeah, I mean, I don't know. While the systems are the same, that would be the conversation to me. Is there are about 6, 7, 8 that seem to do it at a level of illusion, of complexity that you hear about all the time, and I sure hope these Seahawks can do that.
I think that's the really the way to win. I mean, people try and win with confusion all the time, and the reality is the most confusing thing is what you just said, Brock. If when they line up in this formation, whatever this formation is, they really like 8 things out of it. That's the way to win with confusion, the shifts and the motions, and a lot of times you confuse yourself. And so I think your ability to make 3 or 4 things look the same, whether it's running inside zone out of a 2x2 and then having a play action off of it, and then having a play action throwback screen to the tight end off of it, and then having it's just layers off of that. And so I think you win with that as opposed to more formations, more shifts, more motions. And so, but honestly, training camp, we don't know what the Seahawks offense is going to be until they start playing and continuing to call the things that they're good at, right? And in spring, you introduce everything. Training camp, you throw everything at your offense, and then you learn. That's my experience. Is a lot of times you go into the year going, we're going to be really good at this, and you get to week 7, and you're like, we're actually majoring in that, because if you're really good at something, you should do that more. And I think. The number one trait that I've seen in great coaches is like the only common denominator, humility. That when the guys feel like they have everything figured out, and we've done it before and we won it back in 2006, it's like you just capped your development. And it's the guys that continue to evolve who do not think they have it figured out. And I'm referencing my time with Nick Saban, my time with Bill Belichick, my time with Dabo Sweeney, my time with Sean McVay, my time with some up-and-coming coaches that may not even be on anybody's radar, where I go, this guy's going to be really good. And that's what I'm hearing a lot. Those are the vibes I get out of a lot of the staff that's in Seattle right now is, this is how we did it last year, but it's a new year. And how can I get better? And how can we change it? And how can we simplify this? How can I make this easier to learn? How can I make this more explosive? And so it's not a work ethic thing. These guys all work hard. Not all of them played. Very few of them were very good players. Right. So that you start looking at these common denominators, they're not white, black, Polynesian. There's no, you know what I mean? It's not, there aren't common denominators that you typically have when ranking different people that have the same job. And so the thing that I found is humility. And there's a story I have about, one of the biggest names coaches in the NFL. And I don't know if he's come from a share of the story, so I'll leave him blank, but like one of the best coaches in the NFL. I gave a speech during COVID on Zoom to this organization of coaches, and I didn't know until I got on the Zoom, and a former coach of mine, Mark Tressman, asked me, hey, will you give your confidence presentation that you give? Will you give that to this? There's me a bunch of coaches on there. And I get in there, I'm in the waiting room, and it's like every coach from Belichick on down. I'm like, start getting nervous. I'm like, oh, all right. So I have my little 30 minutes and I give my speech. And one of the biggest named coaches in the NFL randomly about an hour later texts me, says, hey, this is so-and-so. I was blown away by your presentation. I would love to spend some time with you and learn more. And he did. He came in town and he spent a day at my office.
That's cool.
And I offered to go there and offered, no. He came and I didn't have time to ask him questions because he was asking me so many questions. Because he goes, look, this guy, Jordan, knows something more about this one thing than I do. And I think I can learn from it. And after that experience, I go, okay, it's humility. Yep. And that guy still today is one of the biggest named coaches in the NFL. And like after that experience, you're just like, well, then this is the thing. It's not talent or intelligence. It's just your ability to just check yourself. Like, would I want to be coached by me? Like, would I be the right coach? I've heard Sean McVay say that. Like, can I get better? Can I simplify things? And so I think when you have a young staff, typically younger coaches, I think you get that.
Well, you're seeing it with Mike McDonald right now. I mean, he's got a whole team. They hired a consultant to watch his team speeches and presentations and give him feedback. And he was talking to us about that publicly. So I think that's a really valuable insight. Where does, just as we let you go here, where does this rank on famous quarterback quotes?
Unlimited.
Because I don't know that this one's great either.
Okay.
I don't know that that's his worst one.
Really?
Mr. Unlimited.
It was pretty bad. The high
I mean,
knees,
that guy
maybe?
scared me away from Subway sandwiches for life. Like I'm like a Jimmy John's guy now. Like I don't know that I'll ever eat Subway again.
Jordan, thank you.
And that's one that was mic'd up.
Yeah.
I got some quarterbacks who've been in rooms with him.
Jordan, thank you.
Jordan.
This is a lot of fun. We appreciate it. Thanks for jumping on video.